Does this kind of sound familiar? You hit great shots on the range for an hour and you think you finally have it figured out. And then you get to the course, you've got your first kind of knockdown 9-iron you've got to hit, and you just lay the sod over. Well, that kind of tells me that your practice lied to you. And today we're going to tell you why. We're going to talk about what a dirt road is in your brain. We're going to give you one ugly drill that makes your swing work when it counts. And so if you want to feel good for an hour, this probably isn't the podcast for you. So I just turn it off. But if you want to shoot lower scores, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Play Ready Golf Podcast. If you've ever gone to the range and realized you have no idea what to practice, we know exactly how you feel. But before we jump into that, Hayden, I'm going to kick it to you. Just a little weekly check-in. I know you've moved south to warmer weather, to better things. You're breaking down boxes. You haven't cut yourself with a box knife yet. That's a positive. Kind of.
No.
What's been going on, man?
Actually, since I've been grinding on the move in, I haven't been able to play golf all that much, but I got to play last Friday and surprise myself. It was one of the first full 18-hole rounds I had with in a while, since Christmas and moving, everything that comes with that. I surprised myself, a nice little 68. It was a 6,500 yard course, so it's not the best round in the entire world, but it was good. The big thing is that, you know, we recorded the podcast 2 days before, and I played on Friday. The podcast released on Friday, all about driving. Isaac, I think I missed like 2, maybe 3 fairways. I mean, I think we're onto something right now.
We're definitely onto something. So if you haven't listened to that podcast, I mean, it works. It works miracles. Actually, you're already a great driver of the golf ball. You were, but
results may vary.
That was a fun one. That's why I'm really excited to jump in today and talk about irons. Speaking of irons, I hit a grand total of 15 minutes worth of balls last week. I posted on Instagram what that looked like, since we've been working in quick sessions as a new feature in the Play Ready Golf app. And so I was able to get in there for 15 minutes and hit some balls, get better, a little better every day. But yeah, it's golf practice is few and far between for me right now, you know, between work, between building the Play Ready Golf business, you know, helping out here with the college team now. It's been a lot of fun, but practice is taking a back seat, and that just means it's got to be more efficient and effective.
Exactly.
Well, before we jump into our conversation on how everybody can get better approaching the green, obviously this is number 2 out of our 4-part series on every single strokes gain category and how you can improve there. So last week we talked off the tee, did a little fun birdies and bogeys game there. I'm going to give you a little saying, and you got to tell me if it's a birdie, if it's a good thing, or if it's a bogey, it's a bad thing. This week we're doing approach. So jumping into birdies or bogeys for approach. Hayden, are you ready for this?
I am for sure ready.
Okay, number 1, grooving a swing on the range builds consistency.
Builds consistency. I'm gonna go with a bogey. I wouldn't say it builds consistency. I would say that grooving a swing on the range builds a swing for the range. It doesn't build it for the golf course.
Okay. Number 2, a bad shot in practice is better than a good shot in practice.
So there's a lot of different ways we can go with it. I'm gonna be the contrarian. I'm just gonna say a par. There's good things and there's bad things we can take from that. A bad shot, obviously, we can learn from it and we can see what's going on. But if we're just talking in practice, if we're just talking on the range, all right, I'm going to say it's neutral. Good shot, bad shot. You're going to learn as much as you want to learn from it.
Great. I love that. Number 3, never hit the same club twice in a row on the driving range.
Can I go hole in one? You know, if we're trying to bring what we're doing on the golf course, unless you're hitting the ball in the water or out of bounds, you're never hitting the same shot 2 times in a row. So it's great when we are practicing on the range and we're saying, okay, the warm up is done, the mechanical thoughts are done. I'm actually going to see if I can translate some things over and practice like I play. That's got to be a hole in one. That's the gold standard.
Love it. And I'm excited. We've got a drill at the very end that's going to make that very practical for everybody. Number 4, aim at the pin to get better.
Yeah. The thought is aim small, miss small, right? Well, on the golf course, maybe we shouldn't be aiming at pins. Maybe we should be aiming at the fat sides of the green. So I'm going to go bogey on that one.
Love it. And finally, You must work the ball both ways to be a single-digit handicap.
Bogey. Big bogey. You know, if we're thinking single digit handicapper, you know, an eight is a single digit handicapper. And you know, how does the Gen app work where it does, you know, what, 9 or 8 of your last 20 rounds? You know, that's what your handicap goes in. And then that's off of the course rating. Look, play your own game. Play your own game of golf. So you don't have to draw it on this hole and cut it on that hole. No. And we're going to talk a lot about all these different topics today.
Yeah, love it. Well, speaking of working the ball both ways, hitting the same shot 2 times in a row or 10 times in a row, what do you probably practice more than I do. You're on ranges more than I am. What do you think most golfers do at the range? What do they kind of fall back to?
So there's 2 different types of golfers. If you're the country club golfer, or even if you're I'm going to a public range golfer. Look, we're getting a bag of balls and we're swinging and we're probably not stretching before. So we're just going and we're hitting until our body starts feeling loose. And then at that point, we're probably halfway done with the bag. And then we're like, okay, what are the shots that I typically hit the most? Oh, let's just go with a 7-iron. And we're going to hit a lot of 7-irons. We're going to hit it straight. And then we're going to be like, oh, let's aim at this flag over here. Let's change up the target. And then we go there. And then, okay, I want to hit some drivers because I hit a lot of drivers. Then we aim wherever in the range, and then we do that. And then we got like 3 or 4 balls left, and then we like, oh, the session's over. But we're not really having any purpose to that practice. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I would completely agree. I mean, I know for myself, and I've told this story in YouTube videos, and I spent a whole week in college just hitting like 40 to 50 of the same club over and over and over again to discover my dispersion. Because I thought if I knew my dispersion for each club within this context, that was going to help me somehow. Like knowing that I carried 7-iron 187 and had an average dispersion of 12 or whatever, I don't know, that was going to help me. The problem with that is in no world does that second ball help me. Like the first ball tells me what I'm doing, and then the second ball I'm mentally adjusting, and then the third ball I'm adjusting, and the fourth ball I'm adjusting. And then how many times am I hitting even like 5 7-irons in a round total, much less 50 in a row? So that's something that I know is really easy for me to fall into that trap. I don't know. You're a professional golfer. You play D1 golf. I just play D2 golf. So I'm sure you've never fallen into this trap.
Yeah, I always found myself in college wanting to like quote unquote groove a certain swing. I've definitely had moments in my life where I've maybe obsessed on the mechanical aspects of my swing. And it wasn't until I get to the last couple of balls in that bag, in that bucket, that I'd be, oh, okay, let's go through a full routine, or let's do this. And I would say when I feel like my range is most translating to the golf course is when I make, let's say, the percentage of golf balls that I have available to hit, when I make a higher percentage of them be full routine, full focus. What are we doing here? And I think you might feel, oh, well, I don't have that luxury. I don't have a lot of golf balls, or, oh, I don't get to play or practice enough during the week. I really just feel like I should just go out and, more is better, right? No, more is not going to be better, because look, golf is a mental game. In the way that you practice and the way that we're going to learn about this, we build some pathways in our brain that it's what's going to show up on the golf course time and time again.
Yeah. And I think for you and we both kind of believe there's this like maybe commonly held belief or a natural instinct to think that repetitions is going to lead to improvement, right? Like repetition equals learning, which just isn't the case. I mean, I love the example of like, let's pick a random math problem. What is 9 times 150? And you do it once, and then I ask you again and again and again and again. You're not getting better at math. You're getting better at solving the same problem. Yeah. And so repetition does not necessarily equal learning, which brings us to our big principle for the week, which is that if you are practicing in a way that values repetition, you are just practicing to drive a truck up and down a dirt road in the same groove every single time. And just because you can drive a truck up and down that dirt road back and forth does not mean that you're getting better at driving. That does not mean that you're getting better at getting off-road and learning on the fly, right? If we're making these ruts really deep, and then the second that we have to change something, well, now it takes even more effort to change it. because these ruts get deeper and deeper, and we lose the ability to change our swing on the fly, or change our shot shape on the fly, or change how we're thinking, because there's all these different variables on the golf course that can influence what we need to change. Wind changes, your lie is going to change, temperature changes, maybe there's some rain coming in. You don't have the perfect number into the green. That's obviously a huge one. How often do you have a perfect number, quote unquote? And so if you're stuck in that rut, it's really hard to adjust. Now, Hayden, is there any kind of backing there from a scientific standpoint, or is this just something I'm making up?
No, yeah, you're not making this up. Part of the reason why we love golf so much is that golf translates to life. Golf and life, I feel like, whether it's a singular round or a conglomerate of rounds, you can look at them and see patterns and see certain things and how it translates to your life. And so some of these improvements that we're talking about, they're designed here for the golf. This is the Play Ready Golf Podcast. We are here to help you improve a golf with the time and the resources that you have. But B, we can take these lessons into other parts of our lives. So if we're talking about maybe habit building, the way that it's neurologically, or the way that it is scientifically going on in your brain, is what we do in life builds neurological pathways. You wake up, you brush your teeth enough, the same pattern, the same way, it's going to happen every single time, and you don't have to even think about it. To keep going on the driving analogy, you ever been driving and you feel like, hey, I like haven't been paying attention the last 15, 20 minutes. You're like, holy cow, how did I do that? Well, it's probably because you're driving the same commute to work or the same trip to the grocery store or wherever, and you've done it so many times that your brain almost goes in autopilot. And so the way that translates to golf is, say we go to the range and we hit certain shots and we're on these perfectly flat lies and perfectly manicured, lies, because we're going to put the ball in the right spots. We're not going to put a ball in a divot. We're not going to put a ball in the rough. And we start aiming out to a non-target. We just aim straight, or we aim where we think is straight. Then we're going to fall back into that when we get on the golf course. There's a great saying. It says, under pressure, we don't rise to our best swings. We always fall back to our most rehearsed ones. Okay, so I'm going to say that again. We don't rise to our best swing. So, we hit on the range until we hit 5 good 7-irons. So we start feeling good, and then we go to the 5-iron. We go to the driver. No, we're not going to rise to that. We're actually going to fall back to the ones that we rehearse the most, because we're building these neurological pathways. And the deeper that we build them, A, the harder it is to break them, and B, the harder it is to introduce new neurological pathways. So it's not about a lack of discipline. It's not about, hey, you're not disciplined enough, you're not doing the right things. It is simply about patience and repetition of doing the right things, the things that pertain to your golf game the most. So just like we talked about, if it's hitting one shot shape, if it's hitting a cut, if it's hitting a draw, look, keep doing that. Don't try to change that. Right, Isaac?
I would agree with that. I would also say that when we're talking about building these pathways, we have to understand that we're going to need to pull the rabbit out of the hat a lot during a round of golf.
Yeah.
And if we have never practiced pulling that rabbit out of that hat, it's going to be really hard to build that pathway when there's some pressure involved, right? So part of this is we need a rehearsed swing, right? We need a very rehearsed move to groove that motor pattern, right? But then we also need to rehearse a lot of other things, because we need to pull out a lot of different skills on the golf course. We need to be able to hit multiple different shots. We need to know how to control our swing even when we can't take a full backswing, for example. You got a tree in the back. We've got a lot of these different skills. This is also why I think that you don't see very many young major winners, because under the most pressure, they're going to go back. People go back to their most rehearsed move. And those guys who have more experience have rehearsed things more often under more pressure, and they understand how to lean back on that.
Yeah.
So fixing this grooving, the move, the term that we're going to be using is interleaving. So we're weaving in new things into our practice. So that could look like we hit a 7-iron and then a driver and then a wedge, and we're choosing different targets and different shot shapes, and maybe we're taking some speed off, or we're trying to really hook one and then really cut one. And so this is going to slow down your perceived learning curve. It's going to feel like you're learning slower, but in reality, your retention on the golf course goes up monumentally. And so because you've practiced those things, because you've started building those neurological pathways, it's going to be a lot easier to access them when you get on the golf course. So we just got to stop trying to feel good. Like that's, and I will say this too, like there is absolutely a time and a place for like, hey man, I had a long day at work. I just want to go like hit a bunch of 7-irons and just like kind of chill, like listen to some music and awesome. Great. But I would also argue that the majority of golfers aren't in that camp. And it's okay to be in that camp every once in a while, but the majority of golfers, when they show up to the range, they're expecting to get better. But getting better doesn't necessarily mean feeling good when you leave. It means that you actually were a little uncomfortable. And that discomfort is the feeling of driving off the road, right? Yeah. Driving out of your typical tracks. Like I've said before, I'll say again, no one ever got better by doing easy things. Like you just have to get really good at getting uncomfortable and solving the problem. And the more that you can do that, the better. So I don't know. Hayden, do you have any examples maybe of times that you've done that? Have you practiced that in your competitive history?
Yeah. I'll get to that. I just want to add one thing. If it comes to feeling uncomfortable on the range and not performing your best, but that means you feel a little bit better on the golf course and you perform better, wouldn't you take that deal? Yeah. Wouldn't you take that deal? Look, we're practicing as hard or not harder than what we're doing on the golf course. So that when we get to the golf course, when we're with our buddies, we go to a buddies trip, we are at our home club, we're playing the Saturday game, whenever it is, that we can just continually, and maybe it's slowly over time, but improve each and every time. So going back to what you said, yes, obviously Isaac and I are going to talk a lot about college golf because it's something that we both have in common, that we played college golf, but it even rides into me playing junior golf, me playing professional golf. When you play competitive golf tournaments, the pace of play, you want to talk about pace of play being an issue. It's not an issue at the municipal course on a Saturday. That's not when the pace of play is the issue. Pace of play is an issue on some of these competitive golf rounds because what they want to do for us, which might seem fun and fine and dandy before, is they'll move up the tees in some par fives and they might make a par four drivable, or it's like, oh, hey, we have this par three that stretches back to 245. Let's have the pros play that. Hey, that might sound all great and good until we think about, hey, how's pace of play going to affect this? So I used to be notorious for turning the corner, coming to the next hole, and you see two groups on the tee, and I would know, oh my gosh, I'm bogeying this hole. Because how many times am I ever waiting 20 minutes and then hitting a very tough shot? I'm not doing that very often. So in college and even now, I try to practice that. I try to, okay, I'm playing this hole, or, a lot of times it's preparing for the next tournament I play. So I know I'm playing this course and I played it last year and we waited on this tee for this long and this is the shot I have to hit. And I will literally be on the range and hit 3 shots over the course of an hour because I got to actually get myself in that situation, in that mindset of, we got to wait 20 minutes. So do what you normally do. What do? Do you put a towel on the ground and sit on the towel? Do you talk with the guys in your group? Do you sit on your phone? Whatever it is you do, practice that so that you can not be surprised when that certain thing happens. And so for me, getting out of that title, the notorious guy who's going to double or bogey the hole when he's waiting 20 minutes, it took a lot of work for me. And it obviously that's a very, that's a very competitive play specific example, but think about your own. Think about your own practice and your own golf. What are the things that you do a lot that you might not be good at, and just do your best to incorporate those on the range.
Mm-hmm. So for those of us that have a 9 to 5, just maybe play a little bit competitively, or even if you don't play competitively, there's definitely situations where you got 240 into a par 5. There's a group sitting behind you. There's a group on the green. You're waiting a couple minutes. So, we can take that example of hitting 3 balls in an hour and shrink it down a little bit, maybe, right? Maybe we wait 2 minutes in between each shot. You put your club down, you check Instagram, you check your emails, whatever it is, and then you go and hit another ball. And you can do that in whatever cadence you want to. You can, switch it up between a 3-wood and a 7-iron, or you can play a hole in your head, or, if you know that I really struggle when I've got a 5-iron and I've got to wait, like do that, right?
Yeah.
Go through the process and maybe just shorten up the time to make sense for your schedule, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of this too is we need to be able to make our practice efficient and effective. And efficient and effective does not necessarily mean hitting the most golf balls in the shortest amount of time. In fact, it typically means almost the opposite. It means hitting the most amount of quality golf shots in the amount of time that we have. And making sure we get the most out of each golf ball. So part of that with what we're doing with the Play Ready Golf app is we've got some drills in there that do kind of walk you through hitting random shots. And I think the hardest part about hitting random shots is picking your random number. And so we've got a little randomizer in there specific to that drill. And what that does is when you're doing these random numbers, it really starts to expose what you stink at. Like, I know for me, taking something off of a 6, 5, or 4-iron is brutal. I can do it with my 7-wood. I can do it with my 7-iron. I can't do it with anything in between, right? It's going to expose me very quickly. And now, obviously, that app is a private beta right now. It'll be releasing in the middle of March. But if you want to do this on your own, you can just ask Siri or ChatGPT or one of those for, let's say, 10 random numbers between, depending on how far you hit your irons, we'll just say 100 and 200, right? I want 10 random numbers between 100 and 200. You get your list. Okay, now you got 10 shots and you take 2 minutes in between each. You end up 25 minutes, let's say. You're going through your full routine and just start tracking how many land within 12 yards. Or if you want to make it a little bit more difficult, you take those first 2 numbers. So let's say it's 140. You can take those first 2 numbers, divide by 2 or down to 7, and you're just trying to land within 7 yards of your target.
Yeah.
So
and pick new targets every time.
Pick new targets and keep track too. Keep track in your notes app. That's going to be a really easy way for you to get better at building these neurological pathways because the tough thing is like, okay, well, I don't want to have to spend all this time prepping to go practice. This minimizes that time. You get those numbers, you get to go out, you just write down the amount that you had within your allotted landing area, and you're going to get better before you know it. And if you're doing that, it's middle of January, golf season kicks in, we'll say around the Masters, a little after the Masters, so April. So we've got a good chunk of time between now and then where you can be getting really good at hitting random shots. And this works. I would borderline argue that this is easier to do in a simulator. And then on the range, what you're doing, what this does is it helps you with alignment, helps you with resetting, helps you with going through your full routine. And then it also helps with that carry number. So we've got kind of a general overview of how we can do this, but is there a specific drill you would like, Hayden, for people to be doing to practice random practice with their irons, or even integrate it throughout their whole bag?
Yeah, I mean, you can. We might have talked about this before. You can play a hole that gives you fits. You can hit the driver. You can hit the iron. You could do something that is very translated onto the golf course. You can also, talk about neurological capacity. You can prep and plan for the things in your life that, distract you and take you away from the golf course. You can imagine that the wife texts you, "Hey, you forgot to grab this at the store." I'm not speaking from personal experience. This is just a hypothetical, but you could do different stuff like that. But yeah, if whatever we can do to bring the golf course to the range, that's what's going to be really, really good. Do you have a drill in mind for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I like you said, playing some simulated holes. So maybe take the golf course that you play the most and play the front 9. Make sure that you're picking different targets every single time. Even if you've got driver back-to-back holes, choose a new fairway downrange and be very specific about it. And then get your yardage. And if you've got a general idea of what that would be, great. If not, just once again, ChatGPT, random 9 numbers between 100 and 200. And so now we're hitting, and make sure we're work through the bag on the top end, but also with these irons, that's what we're really trying to focus on, especially here, is we're trying to make sure that iron is carrying the distance we want to. Let's say I'll use number 2 at NCR South, for example. Par 3, if that pin's all the way in the front, you definitely don't want to be long, and you don't want to really be right, and you kind of don't want to be left. So like,
where do you want to be?
Yeah. So let's go through a hole that's there's water short right. Okay. And I'm trying to maybe start this thing left of my intended target and cut it in there. Just take notes of when you hit a good shot, why, when you hit a bad shot, why, and keep randomizing things. Don't pick the same target twice. Don't pick the same fairway twice in a row. It should feel weird. You should get tired. It should be annoying. It should take some more time than what you're used to taking on the range for just 18 golf balls. But like we've said, if you aren't frustrated, you're probably not getting better.
No.
And this practice is going to be efficient and effective, which is what we are going for. And you're going to be successful when you go through failure and things start to feel uncomfortable. That's when it's going to start to show up on the golf course. Because if you do this once and you're like, man, that was kind of annoying, and you just go back to hitting 57 irons in a row, like we've kind of lost the plot, right? Like that's in what world is that 49 7-iron helping? Or even the second one. So we want to make sure that our practice is directly impacting how we're scoring, and this is exactly how we do it. So go ahead and give that simulation 9 a try. Give some big breaks in between balls a try. Let us know how it goes. If you got any tips or tricks for other people that are doing this, please let us know that, because we'd be happy to throw that in.
I got one more thing. One more thing. If you're not a golfer who gets a ton of practice, or you're like, hey, my golf every week is when I play, you probably warm up. A great go-to that I always do is my last 3 shots on the range are really simple. It's the first drive that I hit. It's the first approach that I hit. It's the first par 3 that I hit. You know the golf course you're playing. Those are 3 simple ways that I always finish my warm up with those 3. And I literally envision the hole, the bunker, the water, where we can and can't miss. Sometimes on the par 3, I try to envision, okay, where's the flag on today? Where's the harder flag for me? Where's the easier flag? All that kind of stuff. But yeah, Isaac and I, we've loved talking about this 4-part series. Our next one is going to be on short game. However, I think we're going to have, you want to introduce or give a little preview of what we might be rolling out here soon?
We've got a little break in the middle of this mini series next week, where we're going to be bringing on Luke, who's a co-founder of the Player Golf app as well. He is doing all the back end work. He's coding the app, and we're just going to be walking you guys through it. We might give a little preview into maybe some fun features we've got coming, why we did things. Really, really excited to jump into that, because our goal with this is to give people the tool so that they can take the resources and the time they have to actually get better at golf. There's a lot of empty promises out there, and it definitely is frustrating, right? And we want to make sure that we are building a product that genuinely helps you improve at golf with the time and resources that you have. So if you're interested in that, we've got a wait list going on our website, so that you can be first to know that when we launch, we will be running I can guarantee we will be running a massive discount that you will get for the rest of time if you stay on within the first 2 weeks of launch. Exactly. And I'm very excited to announce what that is. So I don't know. Hayden, you got anything else for us before we break?
No, episode 3 in the books. Guys, thanks for listening. Share it with other people. If you want to keep listening along. And after we talk with Luke, it's going to be short game and then putting. And we're just super excited to be doing this podcast. So thanks, everyone.
Yep. Sweet. Well, thanks again, guys. Don't forget, time is limited. Waste nothing and play ready golf. We'll see you next week.
See ya.